Hi, my name is Type, and I want to talk about why I left academia. Um, so I'm guessing you're here because you read the video title, but yeah, I um have been wanting to talk about this for a while and was never really sure how to do it. I want to say that I've wrote maybe like 5 different versions of scripts for this. I've tried to write a blog post. I've attempted so many different things to try to convey my experiences because I don't think I'm alone in what I went through. Um, and I think it can be good to hear the perspective and the experiences of other people when you're trying to make really tough decisions. So hope you'll stick around and listen to what I have to say. But yeah, just a brief introduction. My name is Type. I have a Bachelor of Science in Biology, and I attended graduate school for the sciences, biological sciences. I was going for my PhD, and I left my program. And as you can see, I'm a VTuber, and my original concept was all science-y and stuff like that because I really thought that science was my future and going to be everything that I did. And VTubing was this hobby where I could kind of, like embody that a little more. But from the title, I left my PhD program. And I'm back in a graduate school, but for a totally different field. And so I guess I'll just talk a little bit about my experience. Again, I'm kind of going to this blind. I've had a script and it just didn't feel right, so I kind of just like want to talk. So I guess I'll give a little bit of background about my academic career, give some context. So I was one of those students in high school that didn't really have to study, and I would do well. And when I did have to study, because I had gone so long without studying, I really didn't know how to apply myself. But I had found that I really enjoyed science. I liked the aspect of it where, like you're challenged and you're learning a bunch of new things and it explains other things. And I loved that. And I loved it, but that wasn't where my true passion was. What I really, really enjoyed was writing. I loved my English classes. I loved analyzing poetry. I loved analyzing the old classic books. I loved that kind of stuff. But when I was trying to decide what I wanted to go into when I would go to college or university, my parents are kind of like, absolutely not. They were like, and bear with me, they basically said, there's no future in that. There's no point in going into that. And when they had like the parent-teacher conferences or whatever, they had basically, the teachers had explained to my parents, your daughter is really, really good at science. We think she should go into science. Maybe she should go to medical school one day, which, newsflash, didn't happen. And so that kind of became like my predetermined career path. Not by me, but by the people around me. And I was like, you know what? Sure. Like, if that will allow me to get support when I go off to college, sure. So I went to college. I became a bio major. And I did research all 4 years. So I did summer research. I worked in the same lab for essentially my entire time in undergraduate. And I didn't really know what to do with that. I don't think I was ever guided in a way that was conducive to me understanding what career paths or opportunities were laid out for me in the sciences. And so when my research advisor and my academic advisor is like, hey, I think you should go to graduate school and get your PhD, I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. And so long story short, with a bunch of drama and unhappiness and struggles in between, I applied to graduate school and I got into a graduate program. And when I started it, I was so like gung-ho about it. I was so excited. I really felt like maybe for the first time ever, the person who was guiding me in my career path knew best and had guided me to the right place. Um and I think I was not eluded. I was disillusioned. Um, I really thought that I was enjoying it because I enjoyed working hard, not just because I enjoy learning new things. And I think those are two very different things. I enjoy learning new things. Reading a new scientific journal article that comes out, so exciting. Even if I don't fully understand it and I have to do a lot of other work in order to understand what's going on, so much fun. Slaving away in a lab for like 80 hours a week, not as fun. And as I got farther and farther into my program, I kind of realized that I loved learning, but I didn't only love learning about science. I loved learning about a ton of different things. And so the pandemic hit, ironically, right after I was learning about coronaviruses in the course. And pandemic hit, and I was like, kind of going in, I felt really lonely in the lab. And how do I put this? I started doubting about what I was doing. I doubted if this was the path I really wanted to take. And it kind of like all snowballed to like one day when like something went disastrously wrong in the lab and I had like a breakdown. And I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore. I don't think this is the path for me. Called my parents, crying, sobbing on the phone. And I was like, I don't think this is for me. And they were like, type. Like, you're clearly having some hard times. Take some time to think about it, and we'll come back to that discussion. And I remember, like, my conviction was so strong. I was like, I know I'm not happy here. I know this isn't where I want to be. And so I went through the motions. I did a lot of thinking. Went to therapy. Did a lot of soul searching and realized that I still loved science, but just not in the way I needed to in order to want to put myself through the rest of my PhD. I was like halfway to candidacy. Like I had one more thing to do in order to become like a candidate. Like I'd done the oral examination and I just had to do an oral presentation. Like that was it. Like, and then I would have finished up my research and then graduated. Like this was not like a decision like made my first year. And I remember the like tipping point for me figuring out that like it was okay for me to leave the program and take care of myself and explore my own interests and see how that they could benefit me in a professional setting was I sat down with one of my committee members who was a fabulous individual, had a bit of a rough reputation, but was nothing but kind to me, always provided me with, you know, just like how it is. He was just straightforward, let me know how it was, gave it to me straight. And I sat down and I just cried. Well, I didn't cry, but I tried very hard not to. And he was like, type, listen to me. If you are not happy here, then you should not suffer. He was like, you are smart, you are driven, and you are hardworking. You can succeed in other places and be fine. You do not need this. This is not necessary for your happiness. And if you're super unhappy here, then what's the point of suffering? And that was like very eye-opening for me. I don't think I'd ever really thought of myself as like someone who would be allowed to make those kinds of decisions. And so when I was told that, it was like a light bulb went off and I was like, you're so right. I was like, yeah, I totally can just like go and pursue my own happiness. And So I did. I left my program. Um, very thankful to the individuals who worked with me tirelessly while I was there, but it just wasn't for me. And so I moved on. Sorry, I just hit my desk with my watch. But yeah, I moved on. And I got a position as a scientific writer, and I was like, oh, you know what? I think I really like communicating. I love psychom. I like the ability to speak, to like convey things to people. But it still felt kind of like maybe too much like taking the fun out of learning. I don't know if that like will resonate with any of you, but there comes a point where learning is no longer fun, and I really struggle with maintaining motivation when learning no longer is fun. And so at the beginning of 2024, I was laid off, and I was like, I think this is my opportunity. I felt down and out, don't get me wrong. Like, it sucks. It still does suck. But it was just like a moment where I was like, this is my opportunity to pursue what I think I'm actually interested in, what I find fascination in. There we go. And unfortunately, that's a field that has like no correlation to science whatsoever. A little to psychom, not so much with science. And so I've actually returned to school, gone back to graduate school, and I'm getting a master's degree in communications because I think I really want to learn how to understand clientele, and how to market properly to them and understand what the clientele wants, and things like that. So I have gone back to graduate school, but I think in like a much better mindset. Like, this is what I want to do. I'm happy doing this. And I think this is something I could be happy doing every single day. I think if I had stayed in academia as a biologist, I think it would have taken me significantly longer to figure out what I actually wanted to do. And so, like, in a way, having a breakdown, leaving my program, and then getting laid off was like a eureka moment for me. Like a moment where I went like, oh, I think I know now. And maybe I don't. I think I've learned to have like forgiveness and humility for myself. Like I've always been comfortable giving that to other people, but never with myself. And so this has been a learning process, and I'm still very hard on myself. I think that's how it is for most people. I think a lot of people really struggle to forgive themselves and to be a little easier on themselves. So I've been learning, and I'm still learning, but I think sorry for the pause, but you have to learn how to forgive yourself, and you have to learn how to advocate for yourself. And I think so many individuals no longer fully feel the comfort of advocating for themselves in positions where we're not really in a, like, I'm very grateful and very honored to be in a position where I'm able to return to school and pursue what I'm more interested in. And I know not everyone has that capability. And I'm understanding and gentle with that knowledge because I know that I'm in a position of privilege where I am allowed to do this, and not everyone is allowed to do that, as I am at the moment. So I hope that this not only reaches individuals who are maybe uncertain about their future in academia, but also individuals who want to go into academia. Do some soul searching within your limits. Don't, at some point, like, you learn more from making mistakes than you do thinking about it. Like, you could sit there and think about all the possibilities and all the what ifs, and I don't know if it would actually amount to anything. But sometimes you have to make mistakes, and sometimes they're costly, and that hurts. It hurts, and it's terrible, and you end up having a lot of moments where you sit there and say, what if? And part of the learning process is taking those moments and going, okay, well, I can think about what's happened, what could have happened, but the reality is that things are happening right now. And so I just need to take it and go. And I'm like giving this advice, right? And I still struggle with that. Like sometimes I still sit here and I wonder, like, maybe I should have just finished my PhD. Maybe I should have just gone through with it. And I think that's a totally fair what if for me to sit around and wonder about. But I am learning and applying myself to things that I enjoy so much more. And if I didn't enjoy this as much, I think, you know, maybe there would be even more what ifs. But, like, I'm pressured to live in the moment. I have made the decision already. It is in the past, so I need to keep moving forward. And I have to learn self-forgiveness and self-grace. And I hope that if you are struggling, if you are having a hard time making these decisions, having a hard time making these decisions, there we go, got it out, that you also can forgive yourself for starting something and not being able to finish it. Which I know for a lot of people feels hard. And maybe there's other factors in the decision that you made that are harder to rectify in your mind. And I can't personally help you with that, but I hope that you can overcome those self-barriers or outside barriers, and forgive yourself and move towards the decision that is best for you. But yeah, I kind of wanted to make this video, mostly because, and I feel like I should have said this at the beginning, but whatever, we're not editing this, we're just saying everything and posting it and moving on. But if you ever find yourself wondering the same way I did, I hope that you can feel confidence in your own decisions, but also feel forgiveness for yourself for having to make such a hard decision. Because I think one of the things that they don't really talk about when you have to make big decisions like this is how you can feel a bit guilty, because part of you may perceive this decision coming out of selfishness rather than, you know, like self-preservation and taking care of yourself. So I hope this video has found the people it needs to find. And I promise I'm a real person, and that I have gone through this as well. And I wish you all the best. I really hope that whatever hard decisions you're coming to or have to make soon, that you find the strength to make them. And it is hard to be 100% certain of a decision. So I hope you are welcoming of some doubt when it comes to making decisions themselves. And yes, thank you for listening to my little tangent about leaving academia. I tried to make this as short as possible, because I feel like this isn't something that I should talk about too much, but if you have any questions or are feeling a little uncertain, feel free to leave a comment, and I will try to respond. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a good morning, day, evening, night, whatever it is where you are, and I appreciate you all, as always. Have a good time, everyone. Best of luck. Bye-bye.